G'day guys, welcome back to the stupid Wildkard Rugby show. Rebels versus Brumbies, round 4 Super Rugby, game 2 on a Friday night. First off, Jamie Roberts was in analyst table, I guess, what you might call it. Not exactly on commentary. He was one of the analysts during halftime. Man, he's actually really good. Like, he's got a really nice commentary voice, really professional. He sounded like better commentary. He sounded like a better commentator than the actual people doing the commentary. And the people doing the commentary are quite good. You know, Sean Maloney, Drew Mitchell, they're quite good. And who could forget? Andrew Mertens, they're actually quite good. So, and like halftime, they brought in Jamie Roberts, and his voice and everything is just like, it just sounds like, you know, like a radio host or something. It's just, like, surprisingly good, okay? Surprisingly good for a former Welsh international and current Waratahs player. Quite impressive. So this game was, once again, the Rebels let themselves down quite a bit. The Brumbies had a fairly easy win, I would have to say. The Rebels started out pretty strong this game, was in control, putting Brumbies under pressure. And just small execution errors, not able to convert any points in the start of the game. They had an early penalty that was a little bit far. And Reece Hodge tries for like a 40-meter long-range kick, and he missed. So this was a start that Rebels probably would hope for, wanted to put points on the board early, but they were not able to do so. And then the Brumbies, on the other hand, was on the receiving end, but their execution, when they did have the opportunities, were not very clean at its beginning as well. It took 15 minutes into this game before Valentini was able to actually score points for Brumbies. From there going forward, the Melbourne Rebels mistakes really started to pile up, and space, gaps were starting to open up as a result, letting Brumbies through quite a few tries due to their own defensive issues, I would say, largely. The game is one of those games where Brumbies did have a few changes to their team. They did try a few new players. Didn't make much of a difference for the Brumbies side. Some of the veterans come on the bench, and the Brumbies overall was pretty solid. The scrum was pretty even. The Brumbies had a bit of an advantage at times in the scrummaging, and the lineouts were pretty even as well. The Rebels at times seems basically making their own mistakes more than actual mistakes from the Brumbies. Like, there was one of the lineouts where there was like a mess up the call. No one jumped, so the hooker tried to throw the ball in, nobody jumped, and he just didn't throw the ball in, and it was just basically a free penalty for the Brumbies. So stuff like that are still happening on the Rebels side. I'm really surprised. I did not expect, for a Wallaby level receiver like Matt Phillip make mistakes like that with his hooker. So it's still quite a long way to go for the Rebels to get anywhere at the top levels. Quickly look at the match stats. Brumbies 404 run meters. Rebels, like I said, did have put on a lot of pressure over the Brumbies. 310 run meters, especially in the second half. There was a point where the Rebels scored their second try. It was just really good rugby, something that we haven't seen from the Rebels for, since last year, maybe even more than that. Just really like uninterrupted phases, building patience, no mistakes, and was able to score a try from literally running the ball from inside their own half all the way finishing for a try after, 10, 15 phases. It was really impressive. So definitely have that skills. It's just, the consistency, once again, really hurt the Rebels overall. Tackles made, 24 missed tackles out of 75. I thought the missed tackle count is a lot higher for the Rebels. There were, gaps going through it left and right. I do think that this tackle counts is a little bit, questionable here. Like, if there's some tries that the Brumbies score, like, Tom Banks literally single-handedly ran through like 3 defenders. I can't imagine how there's only 25 missed tackles in this game for the Rebels, to be quite frank. Lineouts, like I said, pretty even. 16 lineouts, 15 lineouts, 1 out, 1 loss for each side. The Brumbies actually had a bit of an issue with their lineout, with their penalties, but overall, I felt like they did have more dominance. And penalty count, this is really got a bit out of hand. The Brumbies' discipline really hurt themselves. Both teams had a yellow cards. But the Rebels one is kind of like, like a bit of an accident where one of the Rebels players took out a Brumbies player over following a high ball, like in the air. That just happens, yellow card. But the Brumbies ones were just, I thought it was just a bit silly. All the Brumbies yellow cards were a result of repeated penalties inside their own 22. So Nick White got the first one. He repeated giving penalties. And right at the end of the game, on over 80th minute, Rebels wants to get like a consolation try. And Brumbies were just throwing away penalties, trying to stop them. 2 yellow cards beyond the 80th minute for the Brumbies there. Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. So unlike the Blues versus Highlanders game earlier today, where the game went to 90 minutes, this game went to 86 minutes, and there was no bonus point in play. So it was just purely for ego and the Rebels trying to get a try at the end, and the Brumbies were just throwing penalties away, stopping the try being scored. So overall, the game, like I said, started our Rebels actually at front, had a penalty attempt missed. 50 minutes in, Brumbies were finally getting their first chance in the Rebels half. Valatini basically gets the ball, just muscled himself over for the first try for the Brumbies. 50 minutes in. And then on the 25th minute, the Brumbies were kind of like the Rebels were kind of like trying to run out of their own half. And there was a messy breakdown. The ball gets turned over to the Brumbies. Quick thinking, ball comes out. Nick White passes the ball out. The ball goes to Jesse Morg. Jesse Morg runs up, takes out the first defender, manages to offload the ball as he's getting tackled, passes the ball to Tom Banks. Tom Banks, by the way, this game, absolutely superhuman performance. Just spectacular. Like, he's running, everything. Even, like, he's played, like, 70th minute, and he's just so good. Really good strong running, really good support, good vision down the field, good kicking game as well. And I really showed, like, he's just outstanding performance by in this game. By far the best player on both teams this game, that is Tom Banks. So anyway, Tom Banks gets the ball. He runs through a little bit of a gap, links up with Ikitau as he's about to get taken out. Ikitau runs in free, open space, goes in for the second try for the Rebels. On the 30th minute, the Rebels gets a yellow card for taking out a player in the air. One of those high balls, people run into each other sort of thing. And then a few minutes later, as a result of the yellow card, on the 35th minute, the Brumbies had a centre field scrum against the Rebels. The defense was just poor, really poor. The ball comes out, they just went, the ball goes blindside. Nick Wright directs the ball to the blind side. Basically, like, the Rebels defense was just, non-existent, I would say. Like, Matt Tamura was out trying to, like, volleyball, like, intercept the ball, but it was just not good enough. The Nick White throws a little loop pass over him. He was completely out of the defensive line over him to Tom Wright on the wing. Easy as that goes in for the third try for the Brumbies. Second half starts. Once again, the Rebels were kind of like building pressure, and then they kind of just like messed up a little bit. And the Brumbies gets a turnover, and immediately kind of like turns on the offense. I think it was Tom Banks that basically found himself spaced out wide, runs through a massive gap in the Rebels defense. As he's about to get taken out, he grabs the ball forward, right? And this ball just goes into the Rebels end zone. And there were 2 Rebels players, including Matt Tamura, who was able to get there first, because Matt Tamura was like hanging out a fullback position. He was able to get to the ball first. And instead of just jumping on the ball or like kick the ball out or do anything, he kind of just like overran it. I don't know what he was doing. He looked like he should have, he like hesitated on jumping on the ball almost. And the ball bounces up. Tom Wright is there, gets the ball, puts it down. So 2 Rebels player could have grounded the ball in goal, or kicked the ball out, or even just catch the ball, just jumped on the ball, whatever. Neither of them did anything. Just watched the ball kind of bounce and kind of like, I wasn't sure, especially Matt Tamura. I don't know what he was doing. Just like looking at it. And then, Tom Wright picks it up, goes in for the try. And then after this try, the Rebels really did finally kind of like, tidy things up a bit. On 47th minute, lots of pressure from the Rebels, partying up against the Brumbies. And then Elof gets in, just hard crashed over for the try for the Rebels. The Brumbies immediately hits back on following this. The the Brumbies gets a penalty, piggyback a couple of penalties, kicks the ball out for a 5-meter line out, and not a 5 meter, like 10-meter line out inside the Rebels 22. Rebels again not able to defend this line out. The ball carrier Brown, I think he was the lock, one of the lock who received the ball. He didn't pass the ball back to the hooker. He just or maybe he was. No one knew exactly what happened, but essentially he found himself through the middle of the rock. Like, imagine the rock, he just popped out of the outer side of the rock. Like, he kind of just wiggled himself through, I guess. Popped himself out on the outer side of the rock. Runs in for an easy try on the 50th minute. And then on the 68th minute, the Rebels finally built something that was really, really good. Actually good for the Rebels. They were just building phases. Like I said, 15 phases, maybe more. Started from inside their own half. Just good handling, good patience. Getting through the advantage line bit by bit. Chipping the Brumbies away. And then just such a long period of uninterrupted, no mistakes, good handling. Eventually find themselves with a gap through the Brumbies defense. And then, I think it was, who was it that found the gap? But anyway, one of the Melbourne's player, I think it might be Tomorrow actually, who found the gap. And then he kind of pops the pass out wide to Hartwick, who goes in for the for the try for the Rebels. And at this point, suddenly the Rebels pulled themselves back within 2 tries range with 10 minutes to go. So if Rebels scores again within the next 10 minutes, we could be looking at a close finish here. But nah, that was not to be the case. The Brumbies managed to stabilize the game. The Rebels, especially the way they scored this try, you figured if they continue that, that patience, that good handling, they could have done it. But nah, the Brumbies comes back. Tom Banks just emphatically claims the win for the Brumbies. They had a really beautiful play. They had a line out. The line out goes to the back. They set up for a maul. One crash ball. A fake maul. It didn't actually go to the maul. They popped the ball out. One crash ball in the center field. What is his name? Is it Nick White? I think Lonergan gets the ball out. He goes back to the blind side. And he passes the ball to Jem Slipper. Right? And then you figure that Slipper will just crash the ball. Slipper runs in. Turns to his side. Sees Tom Banks running. Pops to Tom Banks, and Banks just ran through this massive gap in the Rebels 4-pack, runs in, struts, just powers through down the field. He's been playing at this point 74 minutes, and he's powering down the field he's fresh off the bench, right? Just absolutely bolting down the field. 60 meters, try time. It was absolutely beautiful to see. Beautiful to see. Another just huge performance by Tom Banks. Before this try was scored, I already had him down as MVP for this game. And then he scores this try. I'm like, yep. He's just, putting that one step forward from what he's already done so far. The excellent work he's already done so far. Just really good effort. And he goes in for the try. And and that's pretty much the end of the game. The Rebels try to score a consolation try right at the end, which went over to the 86th minute. I thought the Rebels right at the end, they were really close in the try line. They keep crashing, just forwards, pick and go. I thought maybe the Rebels should have spread the ball out wide a little bit. They were probably a little bit too white line fevered, and they just literally had the forwards running into the Brumbies 4-pack 10 phases, 15 phases before they were held up in goal. I thought if they spread the ball out wide, surely there would have been some space, especially when the Brumbies had 2 yellow cards during this period for repeated penalties. So probably a try that could have been scored there if they had, ventured out wide a bit. Yeah, and again, that's kind of come down to the leadership for the team. The playmakers needs to make those calls to get the ball out from the 4-pack instead of hitting the brick wall and eventually getting held up. So yeah, again, this was, I thought this was a bit of a sloppy game, but overall the Brumbies, just watching Tom Banks do his thing was quite entertaining, to be honest. I thought Tom Banks was exceptional, and that was worth the admission if you pay to watch this live. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. I do appreciate it. I'll see you a bit later tomorrow morning for Wales versus France, the big Six Nations game coming up. I'm excited. Hope you are as well. And I'll see you guys a bit later. Cheers.